Hello there, my name is Maria and welcome to my YouTube channel, The Creative Italian. It's been a few weeks since I've been on here. However, I only come on here if I have something, that I feel like is really of value. I don't want to just put anything on up here. So today I'm going to be sharing with you fun, easy, textured soldering on jewelry. This is not a beginner's lesson, okay? So this is for people who already do soldering with jewelry and they want to take it up to the next level. They want to do something a little different to have the solder look a little different. And there's, several different ways of doing that, but I'm going to be showing you one particular way I learned how from a lady on YouTube, and her name is Laura Beth Love. So I'm giving her the credit for this because it's not my technique. I learned from her, but I love it so much that I decided to do a lesson here and share it with you. Now, before I get started, if you want to get notified as soon as I upload a video onto YouTube, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you like my video, I would really appreciate if you give me a thumbs up. It really helps get my videos out there. And I normally never ask for that because I forget. But now I'm going to make a habit of doing it from now on, is asking people, if you like it, give me a thumbs up. If you don't like it, you have something you have to say about it or any of my videos, I'm open to that. That's, there's always room for improvement because this is very new to me doing all this. If you have any questions about this video or another video, if there's information that you'd like to have or something you want to learn that you don't see, maybe I could, share that. Go ahead and leave all of that in the comments. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so here is a piece that I did some texture on my solder here. Now, I'm not going over the brass stamping that's on these pieces. I'm just showing you the different textures that were created with this technique that I'm getting ready to share with you. And this is another piece that I did. So you could see that each piece that is done looks different. That's one of the things that I like about this technique. So some of the things you'll need is a wire cutter, and this tool is to straighten out your wire as it comes off the spool. I love it, especially with heavy gauge wire. It's very handy. Comes in just so much easier just to straighten out the wire. And you will want some solder and some wire, excuse me. This is 16 gauge wire that I'm using here. You could use 18 gauge if you want to, but I chose to use 16 gauge. You'll want a hammer and a metal block, because after you shape, you want an emery board. So what you're going to do is, and you want some flux and a brush to apply your flux. And some tweezers, because these pieces get really hot in your hand. When you're picking it up and moving it around, you want some tweezers that you use just for soldering, actually. A soldering iron. And let's see, I'm trying to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. I think I've covered everything. I'm still new at this, so sometimes I forget things. Okay, this bottle right here, I'm using it to shape my wire. And I'm just going to make a half circle. You can use anything you want to, any size you want to. It doesn't really matter. But this is what I have here in my workroom. So this is what I'm going to use. I'm just going to make a half circle with my wire. And then I'm going to bend the tips together so it actually almost looks like a teardrop. Now you want the ends to be flush together. If they cross over, which a lot of times they will, you could just use your wire cutters to cut that. Make it so it does touch. That way your ends will be soldered together. You want that. So the next thing is you want to soften it and flatten your wire. And you want your hammer so you can do that. Now, I'm not going to be doing that in this video because I already have a piece that's pre-done. It's softened, it's flattened, and it's also tinned. So this piece, like I said, has already been tinned. It still needs to be fluxed yet because I've got to add some solder to this frame. Now, the one thing I don't want to forget to tell you is that a lot of times wire comes with a coating on it. And it makes it real difficult for the for the solder, even with putting flux on the wire, for it to stick. So I have found that taking an emery board that's real rough. You want the roughest emery board you can get. You don't want the smooth ones. Just go over your wire really good on both sides. And just rough up the texture, just rough up the wire so that when you put your flux on and you put your solder on, it'll stick. This has been my experience with the wire that I buy. I don't know why this happens, but it does. So now when I buy wire, I just automatically do the nail file before I do anything else to treat the wire. So this piece has already been tinned, and I'm getting ready here to just add drops of solder all the way around the shape. Now, the one thing I have learned in doing this is that if the solder is too thick, it takes forever for the iron to get through it. And when you go to use your rubber stampings that you see right here next on the table here, it doesn't melt down enough to get the texture that I wanted. So here I'm fluxing both sides. I recommend fluxing both sides. And you'll be adding flux as you go along, as you create your texture with your rubber stamping. You'll be adding more flux as you go along so that your solder will flow easily and you can get this real nice texture on your frame. So yeah, I'm just going to take drops of solder and go all the way around the frame. And then once I'm finished doing that, I'm going to take those rubber stampings and reheat the dots as I go around and I press the rubber stamping into the solder. So this is a great technique for those of you that do soldering jewelry. You want something different and unique. Something that, that you just don't see. A lot of solder is smooth, which looks really good on jewelry. However, I was searching for something different, and I found Laura Beth Love here on YouTube, and I just fell in love with this technique because it's unique, it's organic. When you get done with your piece, you can also do a patina on it if you want to, a copper patina, black patina, whatever you want. So here I'm going over and I'm fluxing again before I start pressing the rubber stamping into the solder. So all you do is just melt it really good and just press down. Now see, I got that long glob right there. I just reheat it and push it back in and just press it back in, that's all. The nice thing about this is if there's a piece that you don't like, or if it's going in a direction that you don't want it to go in, all you have to do is just reheat it and just take your rubber stamping and press it back in to the solder until you get it the way you want it. That's another reason I love this technique so much. It took me a little while learning how to do it. I kept having to go back to Laura Beth Love's video on YouTube, and I kept watching, and And finally, just it all came together for me. And I'm just really excited about the technique because you can create all different kinds of shapes. You can do a half moon, you can do stars, ovals, squares, rectangles, anything you want. Diamond shape, teardrop shape, which is what I have on the block there. So the shapes are endless, and I just think the texture looks really cool with all the different shapes. So I'm adding just a little bit more solder in some places where I don't particularly like what's happening in that one little spot, so I just add it until I get it the way I want it. But for the most part, this goes relatively very fast. Now the rubber stampings I got on Amazon, you can get them in Hobby Lobby, although the selection in Hobby Lobby for me wasn't what I was looking for. I thought it was kind of slim, actually. So I think I got these on Amazon. They had lots of them on Amazon. They come on a wooden block, and I just peel it off the block. So it makes it easy for me to maneuver around my frame, and so I can feel it pressing. How would I want to say this? I feel like I have more control over pressing into the solder when it's just the rubber stamping and it's not on a wooden block, if that makes sense. That's been my experience. So here you have this great texture right here. There's all different kinds of different textures of rubber stampings you can use for different looks. It just makes a lot of fun. So here it is, already finished. I think that turned out really good. Just really special. I mean, you could take this and just do so many different things with it. Add wire to it, add crystals to it. I mean, like the brass stampings I put on mine. I mean, it's just, I think it's endless. Let's do a jump ring. Let me show you how I do that. I'm going to make my own jump ring with some of the 16 gauge wire, because I don't have the jump rings handy right in front of me. So I'm just going to make my own jump ring after I pick it up off the floor. The wire up off the floor. Okay, so yeah, just real easy. Just cut off a piece and do your emery board on the piece really good too before you shape it. It's easier to get to it before you shape it around your pliers. So yeah, I'm just going to make a little half circle here. The other thing I found too is a half circle seems to work better for me when I'm doing a jump ring on these pieces. It's flat, it lays flatter. It's not as bulky on the back of the frame. That's just me. I'm sure other artists have a different way of doing it, but that's how I do it. But you know what? After you get done with your frame, you can always do a wire wrap up at the top and have your loop there where your chain or your leather cord or can be threaded through it. So it doesn't have to be just, you know, a jump ring like this. I've got some other pieces that I did where I actually did the wire wrap on the top. So yeah, all I'm going to do is just add some flux to that. And first, I've figured out where I want to put it. And then pick up the jump ring and put it on my piece. And then just add little bitty dots of solder. Very gently. You don't want to press down too hard. Now, if you do heat too much and it gets to the other side, all you have to do is flip it over. And if it affected the front side a little bit, like it's a little bit too flat, not enough texture, just reheat it and take your rubber stamping and press into it, and it'll be just fine. It'll work out just great. Yeah. So this is a great way to just add a little jump ring if you want to do that. right here. Just finishing that up, smoothing it out. It's so darn hot. These things get so hot. So yeah, everything looks good right here. So we're good to go. So here you have it. I hope that you all will try this out. And it'll just take your soldering and jewelry making to just a different level. And it just makes it a lot of fun to try different stampings and come up with all these different types of textures. Now see, that's the back of it. It's flat on the back, so it still looks good. And you know, sometimes not all the wire is going to be covered, and that's okay too, because it's an organic look. Well, thank you for stopping by, and we'll see you again. Bye-bye.